goons wametoka sijui wapi, wako na marungu na kuambia wamekuja wakiwa wamejihami.
Walianza kutufurusha, walianza kutuchapa, tukalikibiswa mpaka kwa shamba huko juu.
They weren't provoked, they were ordered.
Kuna shughuli ya wahesh, kuna yenye wanalipana ya magoons, kuna yenye wanalipana za kuuza kura. Sasa shughuli ni mingi kwa hivyo.
In Kenya, the most dangerous contracts have no paper trail.
Kuna panga, kuna slasher na kuna rungu. Au wahesh ndio upeana. Wanapea hao sasa wenye wako chini yao ndio sasa zinatufikia sisi.
Kesi na last time mimi maandamano last time. Sio na zilikuwa zinaletwa hata na lori hizi makanta. Na ni mpeni zimebaiwa tu. Like ni hawa hesha wanabai wanaleta in the name of mpasi ingie town. Wata vitu mingi ni wana facilitate.
This is a shadow marketplace where fear is organized, financed and deployed.
Goons.
Goons.
Hooligans.
What if umegraduate na upati kazi, unaweza fanya nini? Goon for hire.
Unaona kuna magoons. Unaona kuna magoons. Yani wasomi.
Silently sitting under the tin rooftops are houses that many here call home, separated by narrow paths which partly form the spaces that children play and enjoy the bliss of ignorance of the realities around them. Poverty, desperation, dire need. For some, the desire to do good gets drowned out by opportunities to do bad with profits to boot, meaning livelihoods and lives secured. If you want to understand Kenya's goon economy, you begin here, places where opportunity is scarce and survival is a daily negotiation.
Story ni kutumika tu na watu wanaitwa viongozi wetu. Tumetumika sana sio.
From the testimonies of two participants in this underground network, a mule and a foot soldier, whose identities we have concealed for their safety, it becomes clear that for many young people drawn into this world, political violence is less about belief and more about survival.
The fact that naweza amka asubuhi, hiyo kazi ndakongana najua ni opportunity nimepewa life. Afikiri ingine nafanya nijitume ni for the sake of the family, like kwetu kuna msee ametoa familia.
Nabidi nijitume je niko na watu wengi na wanahitaji kukula, sasa utafanya nini? Nakimbilia hiyo pesa.
Desperation becomes currency, and currency becomes control. The thirst for truth leads into the alleys where this economy breeds. And through exclusive access to interviews recorded inside these networks, we hear the voices of the goon recruits and organizers themselves.
Zinakuanga mingi sana. Kuna shughuli ya wahesh, kuna yenye wanalipana ya magoons, kuna yenye wanalipana za kuuza kura.
Data Studio, specializing in providing data-driven insights or DPODEV, alongside Tribeless Youth, an initiative seeking to promote peaceful coexistence among Kenya's youth, sourced these voices as they undertook a study which culminated in the report Goonland. Recruitment is operational, digital.
Tuna WhatsApp group, iko na watu 20. So hapo ndo mnapata kama updates, kama kuna hizo kazi. Yeah, hapo ndo mtaingia muangalie.
Yes, mimi nitakuwa na group hapa, sana nakutana na kwa hapa roster hapa. Napata ukitaka kutuona, kuna shughuli hizi yaka kwa net. Anajua hata yeye mwenyewe atajichomea.
Phrase that signals a job.
By the time tunaenda hapo, tukishakutana, ndio sasa atatuambia Kenya amepitia. Unapata most of the time vitu anatuambiaga obviously ni kuharibu, hakuna yenye itatujenga, na hata hapa atatupatia 1,000, 2,000 ama 500.
The goons in their confessions reveal how the violence for hire ecosystem works. They say at the top of this structure sits the client, a politician, a rich individual, in some instances a business person or a local power broker. They decide when violence is needed, how big the operation should be, and how much money will be spent. They rarely interact with the young men and women directly. Their safety depends on staying invisible. Beneath them are the handlers and personal assistants, trusted intermediaries who move cash, relay instructions, and ensure the client's name never appears anywhere near the operation.
Wenye wameform, wenye wako chini ya mhesh, hao ndio wanakuanga wameziform, hao ndio wanatunform.
The next link is a recruiter, also known as the kingfish or big fish. These, the confessing goons claim, are the real nerve centers of mobilization. They know which young men and women are idle, who is loyal, who can be counted on, and who can be deployed without hesitation. They control neighborhoods, command respect, and can mobilize young people in minutes.
Usually you'd find a recruiter is the kind of person who, by and large, would say, at any one point, Mhesh needs 70 young men in 45 minutes. I can always deliver on that. It's almost like a standing army, so to speak. They're doing other different things. It's an invisible infrastructure, but very effective.
Shughuli kwa kubwa, unaweza sikia hata watu 100 wameitwa, ikiwa ndogo unaweza sikia watu 20 ama 20.
Akihitaji mimi anaweza kwambia kujeni wasaichuani. Anapata kwa kijiji wa kwa idol, labda hiyo kijiji mko sahihi, kwa sahihi mko 30. Tena bidi unapiga wale waboy wa Dandora simu, unapiga wale wa Kariobangi, mnaitana tu na wako na motorbike vitu kali. Unakutana kama mnafanya nini? Mnaenda kama moyo yake au yake. Kama ni Kamundoro ni Kamundoro.
The goons say that they work with scouts, young eyes on the ground, who track targets, map escape routes, observe rival groups, and relay updates through WhatsApp. Weapons travel quietly, often concealed by couriers. They move weapons and money discreetly. Slashers hidden in sacks, metal rods under long, loose gowns with head coverings or buibuis, cash tucked into handbags or motorcycles.
It's predominantly men, but we also increasingly, as we did the study, found there are also ladies within some of those ranks. And their work has always been, and especially this grew out of the June 2024 revolution, where increasingly we saw their use, their deployment. I mean, we had the protests in 35 of the 47 counties, and a significant portion of those experienced Goon reaction to the Gen Z protests.
Shughuli ya mwisho ilikuwa tu kwa mtaa, siku ya maandamano. So sisi tulikuwa tulipwa, tukaambiwa tubebe hizi masilaha, tufuatane nao maboy wengine, tuende. Sisi tukafuata. So ilikuwa ukienda, ukipatana na majinzi, mtu yoyote analeta shida, huyo ndo mnaanzana na yeye.
You and I cannot just walk into a hardware and order for 100 machetes or slashes without, some sort of way that information getting to, the security infrastructure, within the communities. But then these politicians are able to do that by virtue of just who they are. And so in a sense, depending on the nature of the job, depending on the nature of the deployment, the time they need, the time turnaround they need to execute these, what they would definitely do is they would send out someone to go get these from hardwares around the city. And one of the other things is, in terms of the nature of the weapons, it's the everyday tools. It's your mpini agenda, it's your panga, it's your slasher, the kind of stuff you find in a typical homestead.
And finally, the foot soldiers, the young men who carry out the violence. Their role is the simplest and the most dangerous: intimidate, disrupt, fight, and disappear. Different politicians, different agenda, same machinery. In this system, violence functions like any other paid task, a service delivered on demand. Payments vary by rank, risk, and client. A governor pays more than an MP more than an MCA.
Usually they will tell you, one, it depends on who's hiring, basically who is quote-unquote client, or what they kept referring to as Mahesh, who's at the very top of this hierarchy.
Tunajua nalipa poa, governor akikutaja anakulipa 50. Shughuli ya governor hiyo ni 1,200. Shughuli ya MP hiyo ni 1,000 sure bet. Shughuli ya MCA inakwanga 500. Ama ikienda ni 500 tu, hakuna siku MCA atakupea zaidi ya 500.
But at the bottom of the chain, the young men who carry out the violence are paid the least and risk the most.
Mobilizer yeye anakula poje, ni anatupanga. Lakini unapata sasa sisi tuko chini yake tunakula sama vitu kuliko compared na yenyewe anakula. Sasa unapata yeye anaweza kula 5,000 kwa hiyo shughuli ni imetuleta na sisi tukule mbili ama 50. Unapata kuna shughuli zingine za kwanga meja ama serious. Zile serious unapata wanatuletea down payment kwanza mtu amepromise kuna nyingine itakuja hata shughuli. Twende kwa site kitoka tena utapata wengine. Unapata kuna wale kwa hawajiwezi fiti na baki pigeni shughuli nitawalipa. Jana ja kulipa ndio uende shughuli au taenda. Tena baki like pigeni shughuli ndio mfanya nini? Kuja niwalipe. Na unapata wenye analipa ni hao mobilizer na janga sota kwa ground. Sasa kila kitu hiyo pesa yapelekea vijana wako.
Inside this world, power is admired, desired, revered. Access is currency. This is embodied in the clout carried by the kingfish, the figures who sit between the politicians and the foot soldiers.
In the universe of these young men, the most admirable characters are politicians and the kingfish, the big fish rather, the people who are in between the intermediaries. And so there's a sense of admiration of looking up to Governor XYZ or MP XYZ as a sort of a hero to them. So there is monetary incentive, but beyond that, there is also a sense of admiration of the characters who call them into these kind of jobs.
Asiona kama mamini viongozi wa hizi shughuli za kwenda mwesha kama hivi saba twende. Wanaonyo wanatanga pesa ndio wanakwamba mamini sana hata kushinda Wahesh wenyewe. Wanajua wamepikana na huyu jamaa sasa tutakaa. Tena bila na mamini at least kidogo inawafikia.
Some reinvent themselves as influencers, amassing hundreds of thousands of followers online, blending bravado with mobilization.
It is a sort of a machinery that is repurposing itself for the Goon economy, given how lucrative it has been in the last 2 years. But it's always been there, generally masquerading as a political commentary.
In any market, there's demand and supply. Here is the supply. From the outside, this looks like any ordinary neighborhood, but when you walk here long enough, you learn something else. That alleys like these are the labor market. Not formal, but functional. Young men wait, instructions arrive, payments are promised. For them, this isn't anger, this is employment.
If you look at the structure of these communities, basically, there aren't many spaces where you'd find these young men. They'll go play football because that's the field where they'd go to. They'll hang out at their local, drinking joints. They'll hang out at, at the street corners, which they call bases. So in a sense, there are 4 or 5 different spaces where you're most likely to find a group of young men at any one point. And that makes it easier for this particular recruiter to know where to find them. These young men, they don't have money. If you wake up in the morning and you have your 50 shillings, and then somebody calls you for 3 hours of chaos and you're getting 2,500, that's a significant bump on their daily income.
In light of these findings and what has played out in the public eye, the November 27th by-election promised to be Goon season, and this was even foretold.
What has shocked me is that I've been attacked as police are watching. In fact, I was standing with the police officers. So I wanted to request that if there are instructions that the police connive and be complicit in chaos for whatever reason, we want to request the IG and the minister that the police need to be much more firm.
Some of them have morphed into entire bike gangs, if you will. We are seeing it in Mbeere North, we are seeing it in Kasipul, we are seeing it here in Nairobi, Kariobangi North. And all these sort of flashpoints begin to point to a particular pattern that, sort of a residual effect of their use in June 2024, and June 25th, 2025, and even in Sabasaba. We saw it quite well organized, especially post-Sabasaba around the Mount Kenya counties.
And true to the trends and predictions, the mini polls saw this machine in action.
Alfred mtu atoka.
Various areas recorded violent incidents where hired groups disrupted voting, intimidated voters, and clashed with opponents. It was open for all to see that there was blood. There were relentless claims of money exchanging hands and hands exchanging money. And in light of the dark cloud of Goonism that came alive, there was blood money. The impunity that is violence for hire was at play and was visibly part of a plan.
Watu wamekuja na visu, mapanga, wanataka kutuua. Wametuchoma choma.
Our democracy is facing its darkest hour of peril. And you, the media, can actually defend our democracy by exposing all electoral malpractices. One of those under Article 81 of our Constitution that undermines free and fair elections is violence.
In several documented cases, some of the ununiformed but violent individuals who, based on their actions, have also been branded goons, appear to operate in close proximity to police, at times moving past officers without interference. Risking the validation of claims that hired violence has state cover. Playing out as things did during past protests where the confessing goons speak of and the Odipodev report speaks to. A case of same script, different location, part, different cast.
Security enforcement in the streets will do nothing to them. Why? Because they know these orders come from above. So if a governor has ordered for goons, the ground level security operative is way below in terms of rank and ability to be able to stop this unless this instruction from this prominent businessman or politician is met by an equally powerful deterrence from the security elements or higher up in the security infrastructure.
Beyond political assignments, violence spills beyond the mission. Its consequences often fall on people who never hired it and never deserved it.
Nilijipata nimelala chini. Tulinyang'anywa vitu zangu za kazi zote.
Ni hapo katika ndio nilipikiwa na sijui nilipigia wapi ndio sielewi. Na kama nilipikwa nikasindia nikaanguka.
What happens is you cannot take a group of 60, 70, 80 young men, put them together and give them weapons, make them feel powerful, give them some money and all these substances, send them out into the streets and just hope they'll cause 3-4 hours of chaos and just walk home. They form into gangs. They carry those weapons and they use them back on civilians back in their neighborhoods.
Kujirudisha mkono sana patanga watu wanaumia mostly ni raia. Unapata inakuanga ni nikata ukiibia mtu jaribu kuresist hasa mwenye anataka kumwesha atakuchapa. Hata watakugonga atakuchapa tu kwa nanuna hivyo inabaki like nuna kosea kuresist hivyo. So kinakuanga ni kitu normal.
For many of the youth involved, the risks are severe. Some have been caught by mobs, some injured, and others have lost their lives in these confrontations.
Kuna mwenye let's say kama ubesti yangu wenye aling'olewa meno. So alijaribu kushughulika but wapi sasa mhesh pia saa ingine anakatanga kuzitoa. Kupatanga tu amekataa.
Sasa mimi niko na scenario, niko na memory hata sasa hivi kuna nyanya viwete, kuna nyanya tena crochet, kuna nyanya kwa wheelchair. Kuna nyana meno karibu zote kwa mdomo, unapata shughuli ni za nani nje ya waesh. Mwisho siku inabaki anakupromise mimi nitakusaidia ama ndaingilia story nikuokolee. Lakini wewe ukijua jamaa hata ikufikiria, wewe si mtoto wake. Mwisho siku yeye bora mtoto wake ameshiba home. Kenya anataka imefika kwa bank account yake, Kenya alikuwa anafaitia imekuwa achieved. Wewe jua wewe mwenye ulivunjika mguu, mwenye uliuawa, mwenye ulitoka meno, jamaa kuna capacity ya kuwekea meno zingine. Kinajua uko kwa shughuli yake. Ni hivyo atakuacha. Jamaa ana capacity ya kupatia hata muda na wheelchair. At least siteseke juu ni shughuli yake uliombilia kwa shughuli yake. Lakini wewe utairing kwa akili yake. Ataenda ambiwe. Like utairing. Hata unapata hata information, kuna like information na mambo mapia yake. Mimi kuna information msiniletee. Tunapata ile kitu kishindo unamwambia pia wake hiyo ni kelele leo ni gita unapiga hata atafikisha hiyo information juu hata mwenyewe hataki kufanya nini. Haimuhusu. Design kayo like kuna boy tumepoteza. Kama hiyo kutoka hiyo last time ya 25 ya June. Tumepoteza selling bro. Ndio ile design ya mkishika mnakuwa mmepromise mtakuja kutolewa. Ndio utaona hata mwisho umejifanya kuja kinajua mwisho wa siku kuna watu wengi watakuja kutoa. Wangapi hata sasa tunaongea sasa hivi wangapi wako jela sasa hata ile scenario ya Kiambu ama wapi wangapi wako jela hata Kikuyu huko wangapi wako jela sasa. Sina wengi. Hakuna baki mwisho wa siku unapata kwa kina familia yao bwana wameshikwa hawajiwezi.
Desperation sends them down this path where they have to do this kind of jobs for waheshimiwa. Out of that, the pickle is anxiety and paranoia, especially being, for those who are caught on camera or those who barely escaped being lynched in the streets. Then it's substance abuse. Out of that, then it gets to more violence. So it's a whole sort of a spiral.
The machine consumes its own. On the other side of this economy are the young men trapped inside it. Exiting the system means losing income, protection, and sometimes risking retaliation.
Kuondokea ni ngumu juu. Wengine unapata uko udu umesota. Unaingia hapo kwa hiyo group unapata wamepost. Kama mtu anakuja anakuambia kuna shughuli fulani na fulani hivi ndio kuna. Sasa unaona umesota inabidi tu sasa utafanya nini? Inabidi tu uende nao. Sasa maybe kama unataka kutoka kwa tu na kazi yako mzuri na kukaa vizuri na kufanya kila kitu unataka ndio utaachana na hiyo
shughuli. Naomba inakuwa like kama kuna deals kubwa unajua za muhesh. Naomba inakuwa ile design ya inakuwa naomba lazima atauhame. Ndio kuna zile series yake kubwa mnajua angalia mmoja ni biashara na najua biashara yangu kwa kura nilipiga mkutano na Kevo na Brayo. So like Brayo anataka kuondokea. Aizi ondokea design juu wataishi class na muhesh. Sasa like akiondokea shughuli kuna venye communication yake na muhesh na katika. Na hivyo muhesh akijua hivyo anajua pia mambo yake yanaharibika. Anajua tena next time akitaka itaharibika. So inakuwa ni noma lazima tuko kwa game. So unapata boss the time ni kuhama. Unapata kurelocate tena na sumbua maboy. Unapata hata na kitu kingine nafanya tena boy hata kuondokea hii shughuli ni ngumu. Kawaida. Kupata shughuli ya kufanya bado at least unakosekana. Ndio ukikosekana utapata kitu at least utafanya nini?
You quit on this job, you're losing out on all the other gigs. So basically you're setting yourself up to starve and you have to find another different model of economic sustenance. And so you have to be drastic enough to walk away from not just this job, but to walk out even from this neighborhood.
In the November 27th mini polls, just as has been the case time and again, authorities publicly vowed action. Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission Chair Erastus Ethekon called for calm and promised investigations. Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja said investigations were underway and perpetrators would face the law.
We want to restore the confidence of the people of Kenya in the electoral process by making sure that these by-elections are peaceful.
Yet the day itself, in some areas more than others, was marked by an unsettling overlap of violence and threats to electoral integrity. If the buyers of this violence are not tracked and held to account, the cycle will repeat and ramp up as the country approaches 2027. And this is a resounding concern that is being uttered in both low and loud tones, online and offline, as many express concern on what 2027 may look like. And this is likely to include the very enablers of the Goonism, speaking in their wolf hearts while dressed in sheep's clothing.
This isn't a criminal gang problem. This is a labor market problem. Violence is the job. Poverty is the fuel. And until the buyers, the architects of this economy are exposed, Kenya's democracy will continue to run on fear.
Michelle Ngele Odhiambo, NTV.